Hello, Langley class of 2020. My name is Eric Christopher Webb, and today I am a National Black Authors Tour best-selling author and empowerment strategist. I would like to first thank you and your staff for inviting me to share and celebrate your promotion today. As a proud 1987 Langley alumnus who grew up in Greenway Park in Broadhead Manor, it is a great honor for me to speak with you today. These are uncertain times, but you should not let them overshadow your accomplishment today, nor your plans to step into the future. After all, the future is scary enough. In the fall, you've got some really important decisions to make. What will you do to get better grades in high school? What sports or extracurricular activities will you choose? Will you change your look, your style, or your dress? But most importantly, who will you sit with in the cafeteria? At the end of the day, I'm sure you're afraid to fail at any of these things. But I'm here to tell you that failing per se isn't such a bad thing. That's right, I said it, and I know your teachers right now are squirming in their seats. But I'm not talking about intentionally failing academically, so I ask that you all stay calm and hear me out. So I've got a confession to make. It took me 15 years to write my first novel. Not my first book, but my first novel, The Garvey Protocol, inspired by true events. Now, in the past, my writing success came really easy. During that time, I even wrote other nonfiction and poetry books, but I struggled with my fiction project. So much so, I'd write for a few months and then not look at the manuscript for a few years later. This practice went on because I hadn't fully mapped out the plot. But when I finally did, I got so excited that I couldn't stop sharing my story with anyone who would listen. But after a time, though, I got sidetracked by life. I got laid off from my job as a reporter covering the White House and Congress, went through a divorce, had some other failed relationships, and I got really sad and down. So much so that I stopped writing entirely. I felt like a failure. Suddenly, all I had previously achieved and accomplished meant nothing. I started to self-sabotage and made excuses to myself not to write again. When some people I knew would see me, they'd always ask about the book. They'd ask, "Is it done yet? Is it done yet?" And I'd respond, "I'm still working on it," even when I wasn't. And I'm sure they knew it. Years would pass and the same people would keep on asking, even if they had just seen me a few weeks earlier or a few months earlier. Eventually, I was able to write myself out of my rut and finally finished it. The book hit the stands and it was a big success. Once that happened, perfect strangers would come up to me on the street or contact me online about how much they loved the book or about the questions they had. But I realized I never heard any feedback from any of those same people all those years ago who kept asking me, "Is it done yet?" When I finally did run into some of them, I'd say, "Hey, what did you think of the book?" And almost every time I'd get the same excuse. They'd say they hadn't bought it yet, or they bought it but they hadn't gotten around to reading it. Even when the book had been out for a year or two and almost everybody else was talking about it. That's when I realized they were never really interested in my book or encouraging me to finish it, let alone my success. The entire time they actually were trying to embarrass or discourage me. And when they asked, "Is it done yet?" what they were really saying was, "You're not going to be successful. Why do you keep pretending? Please, fail already." I learned pretty quickly that a lot of people cheer for others to fail. Maybe not always directly, maybe not even consciously, but they do. That's because sometimes others' success makes people feel uncomfortable. It challenges them to do more, to be more, to step outside of their own comfort zones and take some risks. But most of all, it makes them look at themselves and they don't like what they see. That's when I decided I had to learn to thrive from negativity. And you should too. Take those same cheers for your defeat and make them into cheers for your victory. But most of all, you need to break down what failure means and rethink how you experience failure. Please fail already became my mantra and a reminder, and it should be yours too. So when I say please, I want you to say fail already. Let's try it. Please fail already. You know, life would be so much easier if we all aspired to fail. I mean it. Think about the stress people put themselves through trying not to fail, worrying about not living up to others' expectations, being afraid to disappoint others or even disappoint ourselves, worrying about what other people think, say, or feel about what we haven't accomplished at that moment in time, even torturing ourselves with that stigma or that little voice in our head that says, you're a screw up, you're a washout, you're a loser, you're a disappointment. That can be traumatizing. That's why we've got to shift how we think about failure. Failure is not permanent. It's not destiny. Because if you don't stop, failure is simply just practice. So think about it. If we now make failure into something that we aspire to do, something we embrace because everyone is bound to fail, we experience it differently. It affects us differently. That's why we shouldn't run from failure. We need to be running to it. So please, fail already. Now, what if when your parents asked you, what do you want to be when you grow up? You responded, a failure. They'd probably lose their minds, right? That's because most people envision failure as the opposite to success instead of what comes actually before it. And by making failure such a permanently bad thing, parents give kids and students an unrealistic expectation. Now, what if what you really meant, or what you were really saying when you answered a failure was that you want to be Oprah Winfrey? She was a failure. She was fired from her first job as a television news anchor in Baltimore for getting too emotionally invested in her stories. Or you want to be Steven Spielberg. He was a failure. He was rejected by USC's School of Cinematic Arts multiple times. In 1975, though, he created Jaws, his first summer blockbuster. Now, since then, he has won 3 Academy Awards, 4 Emmys, 7 Daytime Emmys, and his 27 movies have grossed more than $9 billion. Or you want to be Vera Wang. She was a failure. She failed to make the 1968 Olympic team, figure skating team that is. Then she became an editor at Vogue, but was passed over for the editor-in-chief position. At 40, she began designing wedding gowns, and today is one of the top fashion designers with a business worth more than $1 billion. Most people, especially while we're young, we tend to look up to very successful people. They're like gods to us. We think success came so naturally to them and so easily for them that they never made any mistakes, and most of all, they never failed. So when we try to be like them and when we fail, we think we're less than them and we give up. But what we all need to understand is that when we aspire to be as great and successful as these legendary people, we are undoubtedly bound to fail because they failed too. And the sooner we're okay with it, the sooner we'll figure out what we need to do to actually become successful and great. That's why we need to rethink what failure means. The dictionary defines failure is a lack of success or the omission of expected or required action. But rather, failure really is practice or inevitable part of the success process. Let's face it, everyone fails. But when we fail, it traditionally becomes a problem because we allow it to affect our future thoughts, feelings, and our actions. Our goals seem less attainable. We suddenly believe we lack the necessary abilities. We believe we have no control over our destiny and that we're helpless. And ultimately, it leads to self-sabotage and even the sabotage of others. However, if we don't fall for that negativity, failure is actually amazing for 3 reasons. Number 1, failure develops determination. Milton Hershey started 3 failing candy companies before he started Hershey's. J.K. Rowling, the first billionaire author of the Harry Potter series, was a single welfare mother when she began writing her first novel. So please, fail already. Number 2, failure allows us to perfect what we want to do. Michael Jordan was cut from his high school basketball team. Now, 6 NBA championships and 5 MVPs later, Jordan became arguably the greatest basketball player of all time. Now, Michael Jordan famously said, "I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost about 300 games. On 26 occasions, I've been entrusted to take the game-winning shot, and I've missed. I've failed over and over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed." Even Kobe Bryant said that if you're afraid to fail, you probably will. So please, fail already. Number 3, failure helps us change perspective, allowing us to narrow or broaden our scope toward new discovery. Now, a bland food of cooked wheat at a hospital for mentally ill patients on a strict vegetarian diet was left out and went stale. To salvage it, it was pressed through rollers and toasted. It became incredibly popular with the patients and was later marketed publicly in 1906 as, guess what? Kellogg's Corn Flakes. So please, fail already. You see, failure doesn't have to be crippling. It doesn't have to be a judgment or a death sentence on your abilities or define your worth. Failure is just a signpost on your destination of success as you step into the future. So please, fail already. Congratulations and good luck.
Congratulations, Langley graduates. I am so proud of all of you. You conquered all the obstacles that was in your way. You did it. You did it. You did it. It is now time for you to step into your greatness, step into your future with magic. Yes, magic. You hold magic, and that magic is there is only one you. That's it. Use your magic to help. Use your magic to heal. Use your magic to support. Use your magic to unite. Use your magic to always encourage. As you're stepping into your future, remember, life is your canvas. You hold the paintbrushes, okay? You hold the paintbrushes. It is now time to start your masterpiece. Ha! Yes, your masterpiece. Okay? I look forward to hearing about all of your accomplishments. I look forward to hearing about all of your progress. And while you're doing all of this, while you are making great strides in this world, while you are out putting your footprint into the space, into spaces, I need you to remember this. While you're doing it, keep your chin up and your back straight. It tells a lot about your character. Okay, go ahead, step into your future. The world's waiting on you. Congratulations, y'all. You did it. You did it. You did it. I'll see y'all soon.